Wednesday. Here is another edition of A Flawed Man of God. I am your host, Stuart Davis, deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. I'm not a pastor, not a biblical scholar, and I haven't been to seminary. I'm not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. What I'm here to do is talk about God, talk about Jesus, talk about the Holy Spirit, talk about Christianity, talk about the Bible, talk about a wide variety of different topics, issues, and current events, and give you my take on them. One that I think is reflective of your average Christian guy. I've been a Christian all my life, 40 years, non denominational Protestant. Don't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination. I'm just in the Word daily, trying to do it better each day, trying to live a life closer to Christ. Sometimes I'll get it right, other times I'll get it wrong. But each time I stream, you're going to get honest takes from me. So, if you're somebody who's new to Christianity or interested in learning more about Christianity, perhaps figuring out what faith in Jesus is all about, maybe even have a voice in the back of your mind wondering if there's more to your existence than just your life here on earth. With that, I say, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. You're a big reason I started this channel in the first place. I would like to be able to share with you some of my perspective, some of my thoughts and experiences um, from my Christian background, and perhaps what I can give you will help springboard you into a relationship with God. There's a lot of misconceptions out there, a lot of stereotypes. Maybe that might be holding you back. Maybe you think that the Bible is just a text full of dry. It's a dry text full of stories and judgments and rules. And while you will see rules and judgment in the Bible, there are times where it can be dry, especially when discussing the rules. There's so much more to it than that. There is so much narrative. There is so much content for you to draw learning experiences and understanding of what God's intent for us are and the reasoning behind his commands and why it is important for us to have the faith that we do. There's beginning, right? There's prophecy, there's sacrifice, there's songs, there's proverbs, there's kings, great battles, both with man and and with Satan. And there is love, hope, redemption, and there is a coming of the Messiah, and then his death and resurrection. And through that, we get so much of what separates us from other folks out there. Maybe you have some issues with the idea of going to church. Maybe you think that church is just a place for um, privileged, self-righteous people looking down at others and thinking that they're better in some sort of weird, cultish social club. And while there are bad churches out there, there's no getting around it. While there are bad churches out there, there are good ones. There are many good ones, far more than you might expect, full of folks who would welcome you in, love to get you sat down, taught the fundamentals, get you plugged in to the congregation in a way that you can understand that we're all broken brothers and sisters in Christ, working on ourselves and working to help each other as well. We want to get you to a point where um, you feel like you're part of the family. Somebody um, who is confident in leaning against and leaning on his uh, his congregation to help support you, and then be somebody that the congregation can lean on for support themselves. That so much is the spirit of what the church is about: worship, and family, teaching, fundamentals, again, the Bible, scripture, things that we things that we hold dear. If you're already a Christian and you just enjoy Christian discussions and chatting about it, welcome as well. And wherever you land on things, we'd love to have you in the chat here. Chat's a little quiet tonight. Maybe it's because it's the middle of the week, but chat's quiet tonight. Dresden popped in and said hi. It's late for him, very late for him, or very early, depending on how you look at it. But generally, we have a lot of folks pop in each day or each evening and give their 2 cents worth, ask questions, give insights. And I'd like the same for you. No matter, like I said, no matter where you land on your faith, whether you are just curious right now or you've been, like me, a Christian forever. Maybe you know more about the faith than I do. I certainly am not the most learned Christian out there. Again, I'm not a professional of this. But I would like to provide is a nice, relaxed, comfortable setting for with a layperson approach. So that you understand, this is not my trade. This is not something I'm doing to. This is not part of my profession. This is something that I think is important that I'd like to share with you, and give you that kind of relaxed atmosphere in order to possibly learn about what you're seeking. And with that said, welcome everybody. How are you doing? And by everybody, I mean it's an empty chat for some reason. I don't know what's going on here. Same night, everybody. At least I've got Dresden. Dresden is you and me versus the world. We can win it. We can win it. Hi. um, I'm trying to think of anything housekeeping wise before we get into it. We don't have many people here to discuss things. Just a reminder, there will not be a stream tomorrow night. I do have my monthly meeting, dinner meeting in connection with the elders. I would appreciate some prayers in regard to that because we have an important topic to discuss, and I would like for it to be hashed out and hopefully um, see movement in the right direction. Um, it is something that is very important to me because it is very important to God, important enough to be put into Scripture. And the Word is important because in the beginning there was the Word. Go back there and talk about how important the Word is and how consistent it is, even though the internet atheists like to pretend that Christianity is not consistent. Well, back up. They will say that the Bible is inconsistent. Christianity is inconsistent in the fact that so many of us have got different interpretations of some things. And I think that there is room. I think there's room for that where there is room for us to be imperfect in our interpretations to a degree. But I think there are other um, interpretations where we go against the grain in terms of fundamentals that can lead us down a path to destruction. And it's not just us. It's not just a pastor if he's got it wrong. It's not just the elders if they've got it wrong, or the deacons, or whatever. But you pull the whole congregation along with you. You can anyway. Some will some will realize what's going on and abandon ship. Go find some go find another church to be a part of. But I think it's incumbent on us as a congregation to try to fix things before they are um, before they get out of control. I think that it's important if I'm going to say things like, church should be a family and lean on each other. That means not not hitting the road when it starts to get rough. Season Church is no different from life in many ways. It's very much a collection of people, right? Then so as such, it's going to reflect life, and life has seasons in it, times that are good and times that are bad, and times that kind of seem benign. Good times and benign times, those are easy. Those are easy to roll through. However, the tough times, the tough times are a real challenge. And it can feel as if you're fighting for the very soul of the church. And you can go through splits, go through anger. People will leave and maybe leave the faith entirely, and you want to avoid that. But the thing you want to avoid most is abandoning the command of God, because God's the reason that we're all there to begin with. He's the reason um, we're all congregating in the church, right? To worship Him, to obey Him, to seek His salvation, or our own salvation through Him. Many things, but we have to keep God the center. I think, like I said, it's very important, and it's not just how you feel, right? We can't be selfish in the way that we're only there for ourselves. We're only there for our immediate family, but we're there for everybody. Everybody who's shown up, who's sang hymns next to us, who's shared their experiences in a small group, and who we've stood next to and done volunteer work with. People who have shown up for us when times were down, and people we made a brought a meal to when they were sick or had a sick family member, maybe experienced some sort of loss. That's uh that's important, and I don't know what actually got me started on that. So uh, I think it was because I was announcing that I do have things to discuss at dinner tomorrow, which is usually a great time to get around. I feel like the intentionality of making sure you stay connected with people in your church, not beyond just, Sunday night or a Wednesday night if you go in for study group, but spending a lot of time, um, meaningful and intentional time with folks in your congregation, especially those that you're close to, is good in so many ways. But in one big way is to kind of keep each other accountable, and kind of let everybody know how each person is doing. So these dinners are so very important to me, because it accomplishes something that I think that we were missing before. At least I was missing before. And that's why, as much as I enjoy you guys and streaming and having you guys around, um, for an hour or two each night, when this day comes up, it's more important. It's more important than the stream. All right. With that said, it's gonna be quiet tonight. That means what I say. It's gonna be a quiet stream. It's gonna be a short stream. And if you're wondering why the angles are weird, it's because my video card died. And so I've only got one screen at the time for the time being. And that's not fun. But 'tis what 'tis. So when we last left our reading last night, did we get the right one? Yeah. Last left our meeting last night. We talked about Asa. Now, Asa is third generation since Solomon, king of Judah, right? Asa did many great things. The vast majority of his reign was met with praise because his heart sought the Lord and he was righteous. And then kind of in a similar theme from Saul, he stumbled once, was rebuked about it, and became sullen, and then kind of turned his back on God. It's an interesting thing. I thought that was an interesting point for us to take away as a lesson, because there's a lot of you guys out there who are probably very good, and if you're Christians, you are seeking out the Lord in what you do and constantly improving on yourself and working to do the right thing. However, that implies that if you're working to do the right thing, that maybe you're not always doing the right thing, which is fine. Like I said, we're all broken folks. That's something that you're never going to be able to get past. But when there's consequences for those actions, the correct response will never be turn your back on God or blame Him. It's okay to be angry at God. There are times um, where you can be upset with how things are going. And it might be a way for you to kind of work through confused and frustrated feelings because you don't understand. And we're going to read about that going forward when we get to books like Job, where there can be cause for concern, doubt, anger. But again, these things have to be fleeting. They have to be temporary, because if you can't get past it and understand that there is something else or some purpose behind um, what has befallen you, if you can't get past that, what kind of judgment do you expect upon yourself for your own failings? How are you going to be able to love God in the same way He loves you, or in anything approaching that level? It will eventually fester, stew, and turn to resentment or even disbelief. It happens. It's something that we all need to be careful about doing. It's like complacency. It's another potential obstacle in our way that Satan likes to use to trip us up, or maybe even worse. And that's what happened with Asa. Only he never got back up, really. When we left him, he had like severe gout. That's what it said. He had a disease in his feet, and the disease was severe. Even in his illness, he did not seek help from the Lord, but only the physicians. And he only, his problem started in the 38th year of his reign. He died in the 41st. Like I said, vast majority of his reign, very good. He did many good things. But how'd you close out? I would say it's better to start off bad and end up good than to be good 95% of the way and then turn away at the end. Now, hopefully, Asa in the very end was able to um, receive God back. You always want to see folks rewarded for the good things that they did, and you don't want to see them fall away completely. Maybe he just needed some time. Time's not afforded to us all the time, always. Death can come abruptly. And then what do we have the answer for it? So never just rest on your laurels with your faith. Never think that it's enough. Never think that you've got it in hand. Because as soon as you've got that, that's when the curveballs hit. That's when Satan comes. That's when Satan sees his best opening, and he'll take it. He very much will. So Asa had that, but he had a son, Jehosaphat, and that's who we're going to read about tonight. Jehosaphat is going to be, well, we'll have to see how Jehoshaphat is by reading about him tonight. So with that said, we'll get Chronicles chapter 17. Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. Jehoshaphat, his son, succeeded him as king and strengthened himself against Israel. He stationed troops in all the fortified cities of Judah and put garrisons in Judah and in the towns of Ephraim that his father Asa had captured. Remember that from yesterday. The Lord was with Jehoshaphat because he followed the ways of his father David before him. He did not consult the Baals, but sought the God of his father and followed his commands rather than the practices of Israel. Remember, Israel's in a bad spot. Judah's doing okay. They're struggling a little bit, but they're doing okay, doing all right overall. Israel's gone. Israel's going to stay gone. There is no redemption for them anytime soon. The Lord established the kingdom under his control, and all Judah brought gifts to Jehoshaphat so that he had great wealth and honor. His heart was devoted to the ways of the Lord. Furthermore, he removed the high places and the Asherah poles from Judah. Big step. Great job, Jehoshaphat. This is something that so many, including Solomon, fail to do. When the pagan worshippers, the demon worshippers, put up their false idols in high places, there was a level of tolerance involved in these cities. Jehoshaphat wasn't having it. Take them down. This is a city consecrated by God. This is a nation consecrated by God. There's no place for worship here. Mind you, it's really everywhere. But especially here, if you are saying that you are going to follow commandments sent by God, you better make damn sure that's what you're doing. And Jehoshaphat, he took that seriously. In the 3rd year of his reign, he sent his officials Ben-Hail, Obadiah, Zechariah, Nethanel, and Micaiah to teach in the towns of Judah. With them were certain Levites, Shemaiah, Nethaniah, Zebediah, Asahel, Shemiramoth, Jehonathan, Adonijah, Tobijah, and Tob-Adonijah, and the priests Elishama and Jehoram. I did all right going through that. Guys, if you're new to the show, you don't understand how badly I struggle, how terribly I struggle with some of these pronunciations. They taught throughout Judah, taking the book of the law of the Lord. They went around to all the towns of Judah and taught the people. So good. Look, big campaign to make sure everybody remembers what the rules are. And again, it's not as big of a book as a lot of people really imagine. And that's what I said at the beginning. A lot of people think that the Bible's a book full of rules. There's really not all that many rules. And the core concepts are really summed up in the 10 Commandments. But if you look at the rules and regulations of the United States, Canada, any other country, the rules and regulations involved with that are way just in another zip code of of restrictions put on us, things we can and cannot do, them telling us what to do. Leviticus, or the laws of Moses, whatever you want to call them, it's not really all that much. You might not like everything that's in there, and some of it might not make sense to you, but there's not all that many rules. And if they all kind of fall under, or many of them, most of them fall under the 10 commandments, there you go. And who really has a problem with the 10 commandments? Apostates, that's who. But they are going around educating the folks, making sure everybody knows this is the standard. These are the rules. This is how we must abide. These are the procedures that we have to get into. And that seems to me very responsible governorship. This is a man who's setting his kingdom up for success. The fear of the Lord fell on all the kingdoms of the lands surrounding Judah, so that they did not go to war against Jehoshaphat. Some Philistines brought Jehoshaphat gifts as silver as tribute, and the Arabs brought him flocks, 7,700 wait, 7,700 rams and 7,700 goats. Jehoshaphat became more and more powerful. He built forts and store cities in Judah. He had large supplies in the towns of Judah. He also kept experienced fighting men in Jerusalem. Their enrollment by families was as follows. From Judah, commanders of units 1,000. Adnah, the commander with 300,000 fighting men. Next, Jehoahan, the commander with 280,000. Next, Amasiah, son of Zikri, who volunteered himself for the service of the Lord with 200,000. From Benjamin, Eliada, a valiant soldier with 200,000 men armed with bows and shields. Next, Jehozabad with 180,000 men armed for battle. Not bad numbers, guys. These were the men who served the king, besides those he stationed in the fortified cities throughout Judah. There you go. Alias, there you are. I was just talking about you yesterday. You and Porcupine, I hadn't seen either of you for a while. Glad to have you here, buddy. Glad to see you return. Hopefully, all is well. And we're rolling right through this. So this is actually, like I said, it's going to be kind of a short stream, I think, unless we get, well, we'll see. Just so you know, like I said, I said at the beginning of the show, I'm only doing this on one screen because my video card died. So I got one screen right now. Oh, what a pain. Chapter 18, Micaiah prophesies against Ahab. Now, Ahab, right? We'll get into him in a bit. Now, Jehoshaphat had great wealth and honor, and he allied himself with Ahab by marriage. Ahab is at this point, the current king of Israel. Ahab is an evil dude. In fact, let's do this, especially since we've got time tonight. Let's remind ourselves how bad Ahab is. That's Jeroboam. That's Abijah. Zimri, Omri. Yeah. There's a time. All right. So we talked about Jehoahab. No, Jeroboam. Sorry. Jeroboam was king in Israel for a while. And then He does a great dishonor to the Lord. He dies, and then there's like this um, really quick succession of a few kings. So let's see. That's the king of Judah. Nadab can't be son of Jeroboam. He gets 2 years in charge of Israel. Then he dies. Baasha, he gets 24 years. So he gets a while. Elah gets next. He reigns 2 years. Zimri, he reigns 7 days. Omri, he gets 12 years. So there's not a whole lot of stability going on there. Finally, Ahab becomes king of Israel. In the 38th year of Asa, king of Judah. So Asa sees all these guys go through from Jeroboam all the way to here. Asa reigns throughout that. The 38th year of Asa, king of Judah, Ahab, son of Omri, became king of Israel, and he reigned in Samaria over Israel 22 years. Ahab, son of Omri, did more evil in the eyes of the Lord than any of those before him. He not only considered it trivial to commit the sins of Jeroboam, but also married Jezebel, daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and began to serve Baal and worship him. Jezebel is awful. He set up an altar for Baal in the temple of Baal that he built in Samaria. Ahab also made an Asherah pole and did more to arouse the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel, than did all the kings of Israel before him. Ahab is asshole, right? It's very quiet in here at Alias. It's like just us. And maybe if Dresden's still watching, Dresden might have gone to sleep. He might have gone night night. This is the quietest this stream's been in months. A long time. This is the quietest stream the stream's been maybe in a year, right? Anyways. Where was I at? Let me let me respond to something real quick. Stir pot. There's a pot that needs stirring right now. Anyway, let's get back to where we were at. All right. Crap. Let's go back here. All right. So we know that Ahab is a villain, right? And while Jehoshaphat has great wealth and honor, he allies himself with Ahab by marriage. Now, this is very confusing. This seems very complicated because Israel is still part of the promised land. It still consists of 10 of the 12 tribes of Israel, the chosen tribes of the Lord, right? But they're in deep distress. They are openly heretical and worshiping demons. Some years later, he went. So we're talking about Jehoshaphat. Some years later, he went down to see Ahab in Samaria. Ahab slaughtered many sheep and cattle for him, and the people with him. I'm sorry, hold on. Ahab slaughtered many sheep and cattle for him and the people with him, and urged him to attack Ramoth Gilead. Ahab, king of Israel, asked Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, "Will you go with me against Ramoth Gilead?" And Jehoshaphat replied, "I am as you are, and my people as your people. We will join you in the war. We will join you in the war." But Jehoshaphat also said to the king of Israel, "First seek the counsel of the Lord." So the king of Israel brought together the prophets, 400 men, and asked them, "Shall we go to war against Ramoth Gilead, or shall I not?" "Go," they answered, "for God will give it into the king's hand." But Jehoshaphat asked, "Is there no longer a prophet of the Lord here whom we can inquire of?" The king of Israel answered Jehoshaphat, "There is still one prophet through whom we can inquire of the Lord, but I hate him because he never prophesies anything good about me, but always bad. He is Micaiah, son of Imlah." The king should not say such a thing, Jehoshaphat replied. Yeah. Hey, let's ask God before we go into this. And so Ahab goes, "Sure, yeah, we can do that." So he brings in all of his guys are Baal worshipers. "Hey guys, what do you think?" "Oh yeah. Yeah, do it. God'll be great. God's gonna be fine with it." And Jehoshaphat, using a little bit of discernment here, goes, "Is there anybody who really talks to God who can kind of be our intermediary?" Ahab goes, "Yeah, there's one guy. I hate him. He never says anything nice about me. I wonder why." You've got four. You are. Let's go back. What kind of person is Ahab? He has done more to arouse the anger of the Lord than anybody before him, right? But yet somehow he's upset that things aren't going his way. So he talks about Micaiah, son of Imlah. So the king of Israel called one of his officials and said, "Bring Micaiah, son of Imlah, at once." Dressed in their royal robes, the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, were sitting on their thrones at the threshing floor by the entrance of the gate of Samaria with all the prophets prophesying before them. Now Zedekiah, son of Kenah, had made iron horns, and he declared, "This is what the Lord says. With these you will gore the Arameans until they are destroyed." All the other prophets were prophesying the same thing. "Attack Ramoth Gilead and be victorious," they said, "for the Lord will give it into the king's hand." The messenger who had gone to summon Micaiah said to him, "Look, the other prophets, without exception, are predicting success for the king. Let your word agree with theirs and speak favorably." But Micaiah said, "No, idiot, that's not how that works." No. He does kind of. But Micaiah says, "As sure as the Lord lives, I can tell him only what my God says." Meaning, if I'm actually a prophet, I need to actually prophesy about what actually is being told to me instead of just making it up or just going on with the flow because it's going to make everybody feel comfortable and warm in their tummy. When he arrived, the king asked him, "Micaiah, shall we go to war against Ramoth Gilead, or shall I not?" "Attack and be victorious," he answered, "for they will be given into your hand." The king said to him, "How many times must I make you swear to tell me nothing but the truth in the name of the Lord?" Then Micaiah answered, "I saw all Israel scattered on the hills like sheep without a shepherd. And the Lord said, 'These people have no master. Let each one go home in peace.'" The king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, "Didn't I tell you that he never prophesies anything good about me, but only bad?" Micaiah continued, "Therefore, hear the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne with all the multitudes of heaven standing on his right and on his left. And the Lord said, 'Who will entice Ahab, king of Israel, into attacking Ramoth Gilead and going to his death there?' One suggested this and another that. Finally, a spirit came forward and stood before the Lord and said, 'I will entice him.' 'By what means?' the Lord asked. 'I will go and be a deceiving spirit in the mouths of all his prophets,' he said. 'You will succeed in enticing him,' said the Lord. 'Go and do it.' So now the Lord has put a deceiving spirit in the mouths of these prophets of yours. The Lord has decreed disaster for you." Then Zedekiah, son of Kenah, went up and slapped Micaiah in the face. "Which way did the spirit from the Lord go when he went from me to speak to you?" he asked. Micaiah replied, You will find out on the day you go to hide in an inner room. Look, for instance, this guy's supposed to be the one man left in the nation who can accurately and correctly reveal to the king what God's intents, wishes, etc. are. And he just basically told Ahab, look, you're set up. You've been set up, and this is why. And some guy comes up and slaps him and says, oh, yeah? Well, and then it said makes a sarcastic remark. And then, what do you think? Is this what you want to do? Do you really want to provoke the prophet? Prophet said prophesizes and makes some very final destination type prophecy against him. You'll find out one day. You go find out. The king of Israel then ordered, take Micaiah and send him back to Ammon, the ruler of the city, and to Joash, the king's son, and say, this is what the king says. Put this fellow in prison and give him nothing but bread and water until I return safely. Micaiah declared, if you ever return safely, the Lord has not spoken through me. Then he added, mark my words, all of you people. Micaiah doesn't like Ahab for good reason. Ahab's a jackass. Ahab killed at Ramoth Gilead. So the king of Israel and the Jehosaphat, king of Judah, went up to Ramoth Gilead. The king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, I will enter the battle in disguise, but you wear your royal robes. So the king of Israel disguised himself and went into battle. Yeah, okay, sure. Right? We kind of do this in the military. We have subdued rank where we don't wear metal rank on us so it doesn't get picked up by snipers or whatnot. You try not to be the very colorful peacock in the middle of the battle so that they know who to take out first. This is probably more of self-interest than anything else, though. I mean, this is Ahab we're talking about. Now, the king of Aram had ordered his chariot commanders, do not fight with anyone, small or great, except the king of Israel. When the chariot commanders saw Jehoshaphat, they thought, this is the king of Israel. So they turned to attack him. But Jehoshaphat cried out, and the Lord helped him. I wonder. Of course he did. God drew them away from him. For when the chariot commander saw that he was not the king of Israel, they stopped pursuing him. But someone drew his bow at random and hit the king of Israel between the breastplate and the scale armor. The king told the chariot driver, wheel around, and get me out of the fighting. I've been wounded. I've been shot. All day long, the battle raged, and the king of Israel propped himself up in his chariot, facing the Arameans until evening. Then at sunset, he died. He died. There you go. There you go. I wonder what's going to happen to that other guy. It's just a flesh wound. Yeah. Yeah. Hurts, don't it? So there you go. Again, I said this when I began things yesterday. It's a tale of two cities when we talk about the nation of Israel and the nation of Judah. One has completely terrible rulers, and the other ones have guys are sounds like they're giving an honest try, and they're at least attempting to do the right thing in the eyes of the Lord. And sometimes they do very good, and sometimes they don't. This is how we've gone through this. Rehoboam, who was the first king to succeed Solomon, he started off bad, ended up good. Abijah does a good job. Asa does a really good job, then screws up at the end. And then Jehoshaphat is doing a solid job, a very good job. And so Jehoshaphat finds himself in the trouble. What does he do? He calls out to the Lord, the same Lord that he has been honoring for forever, right? The one that he wanted, he's told Ahab to seek counsel from, but he pledged himself and his armies to Ahab because they're brothers, not not actual brothers, but they're kin, in that they're both Israelites from the 12 tribes, and they're facing outsiders. So Ahab asked for help, and there's also a marriage bond treaty in there, alliance, whatever. Jehoshaphat honors it. And probably if Micaiah told Jehoshaphat, you should not go, Jehoshaphat doesn't go. Jehoshaphat goes, he's in trouble, cries out, the Lord delivers him. Maybe because he actually cried out to the Lord, and they were like, oh wait, no, Ahab doesn't worship God. He worships somebody else, so that can't be him. That would be hilarious. That would have been hilarious. But there you have it. Here you have it. That's not there's not much more really to go on other from there, right? I think what you can draw up there um, is pretty self-evident in the way Ahab works. Ahab is petulant. Ahab is petulant, and he is into himself, and he is a mama's boy in the way that he runs to his wife, Jezebel, whenever things are bad or whenever he's upset. And we learn this in Kings. He's not a strong man, and he dies kind of a coward's death. Doesn't lead his men, hides himself. He doesn't want anything to happen to him. Final Destination ish. All right, guys, that's going to be it for tonight. Like I said, Alias, good to have you back. Glad to have you back in the chat, especially tonight when there was nobody else here. When nobody else is around, Ahab's got my back. It said, thank you for your time and your reading. You make it understandable and entertaining. Lord willing, I'll be able to tune in again tomorrow. And you also, tomorrow, there is no stream. I have commitments tomorrow. Maybe Friday. Maybe Friday. I think we could probably do Friday. We'll see. But as always, tune into the Discord for some updates on that. And look, I'm glad that that I can make this entertaining and more digestible. And I think that kind of taking the time, because when I first did this read through, not streaming it or reading it out loud or anything for an audience, but when I first read through the Bible and I was actually able to get through Leviticus, and that's once I got past my Leviticus issue, as far as just getting through the dryness of it, everything else just rolled. But when I first ran through it, I was doing several chapters a night, and it's harder. You get more out of it, I think, when you take a couple of chapters, you go through it, you give it some the attention it deserves, or at least a fraction of the attention that it deserves. I mean, obviously, it deserves quite a bit of attention. It's the Word of God, but when you break it down to a couple of chapters a night, I think it really does help kind of understand things, and especially just put that out there for other folks to comment on. But I mean, we kind of saw this coming a mile away as far as with Ahab. I don't like this prophet. He never says anything good about me. Well, maybe there's nothing good to say about you. Yeah, go ahead and attack. Do you swear? No. Look, let me tell you what I really saw. What I really saw was God plotting, and this is how it went down. but he's allowing me to tell you this because he knows you're not going to believe me. He knows you're not going to take it to heart. So do whatever. Put him in prison. There you go. I still have nightmares about reading Numbers. I did it and I'll do it again. Numbers is tough. The Pentateuch is tough. But Genesis, Exodus, and Deuteronomy, those are pretty solid. Pretty easy because it's full of stuff to really study, to really keep your attention. And then Deuteronomy especially just is priming you. It's priming you for the rest of the Old Testament, for understanding what God's expectations are for the Israelites and how terribly they go about putting them in action. But so are we, right? We're just as bad. We pick on the Israelites because they're the folks we're reading about. And they do some really stupid things, really dumb decisions, really bad strategies, Cotton. And this is another example of it. Well, in one hand, with Ahab. With Jehoshaphat, we see a man doing what he's expected to do. And not only that, he's taken those Levitical laws. He's taken the commands of the Lord and making sure everybody knows it, right? Trying to bring them back a little bit to that era of the judges at the beginning of Israel, the whole. And perhaps we'll read more about him tomorrow or next time. All right, guys, to Alias and Dresden. That's the only two folks I've got tonight to say. Thanks for being in the chat. Alias, like I said, always good to see you. Pop by anytime. And to the rest of the folks, I hope you're doing okay. Hope you're traveling well. Hope everything's going on well. What I was kind of expecting was to have a John Smoth swoop in here at the last second with a comment. But with everything you guys have got going on, I know Nunath is usually teaching Sunday school, or not Sunday school, a small group, Wednesday night study group on Wednesdays. But, I hope everybody's doing well. And I look forward to seeing you guys when you're all able to congregate back here with me. And with that said, guys, have a very good night and God bless. And no stream. Oh, no stream on Thursday. No stream tomorrow.